What's up, degenerates? This is Locked In, as per usual. I'm your host, Mason Cameron, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And again, with me as always, my man of the hour, my partner in crime, the man who holds it all down here, Vishaal Gupta, at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. V, I'm so happy that I'm back and we get to do the big show because I missed you guys last week, except I heard all the smack talk. I didn't hear it at the time because I was in and out, but then I had to go back and watch it, and I was like, hold a second. Hold on here. No, but anyway, it was definitely a good watch. You guys had a great show. I'm excited to get back into it. You ready?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready. We had to give you a little bit of shit because of how the Broncos played last week. But then, of course, the Bears do what they did last night. So it kind of always evens out, right? Always
Yeah,
evens out.
I think subconsciously I heard it, and that's why I had to, deliver the 2-0 on you in NFL versus this week.
There
But,
you go.
we'll
Okay.
get into that here in a second. We did over underdogs last night. That was my first night back. So go and check it out if you didn't. You can check it out on our YouTube page, on our Twitch page, on our Facebook page, all that good stuff. And definitely get into our Patreon, Nonsense FF. That's how you get into our Discord where you can talk to both of us. You can talk to all the guys about your fantasy lineup, all that good stuff. It's a hoot. There's a lot going on in there right now, so definitely don't miss out. Get in on that. And tonight, we're on to the main event. We're breaking everything down, all of our favorite bets for week 6. I'm excited for it because there's some banger games on the slate we're definitely going to get into. And I'm excited to see kind of how you're thinking about it, but see how we collide here. So speaking of collide, we have a little housekeeping to do. Like I said, I'm going to take my victory lap, but then we'll leave it alone. I swear I won't rub it in too much. But last week I went ahead and I took a 2-0 lead for the week, swept the week on both of them. Let's see, which ones did I take here? So many. Oh, so we actually had landed on the Chargers at the Browns. I landed on Cleveland +3. And you took the Chargers -3. I had that written down wrong in my notes. And I went ahead and took that one home. That was a crazy game. I didn't even expect, even though I took them as it was happening, I was still like, man, I'm a little shocked that this is going down exactly the way that we drew it up. You love to see it. But then we also went ahead and we took Atlanta at Tampa Bay. We took the total in that one. I took the under 48 and you took the over. And I think that, I'm not sure, I'll have to go back and look, but I think that marks 5 straight unders that hit on our verses. So
we had one in week 4. I think the Jacksonville Philly one went over by like 1.5 points.
Okay, yeah, that definitely, that might have been it, but it's been a whole lot of unders. And so we actually did a little changes to our graph here. Excuse me. We added in our records against the spread and for the totals. So I might have actually gotten that mixed up. I think you have more. I think I might have flipped them. I think you actually have more against the spread wins and I have more total. Or no. That is right. You have more totals. I have more against the spreads, and we evened it out this week to go 500 apiece. And it's just heating up. I'm honestly surprised that it's been as close. I see, truth be told, everybody that's watching at home, V is my favorite handicapper. I play all of his stuff all week. So we go and we do this kind of in the beginning of the week, and things will move. And by the time kickoff comes around, me and V are kind of in lockstep on like what we're picking and the games that we take. So our cards look very similar. So I'm surprised that it's as dead neck as it is. And we're right there with it. I'm excited to see how we go this week. So for starters, on what we're hitting this week, we have here, I actually even pulled up the page for it. The first game that we were doing for our NFL versus is we're highlighting New England at Cleveland. We're taking another Cleveland game, but this is the game Cleveland is favored by 3 in, and New England is getting the 3-point cushion. It looks like the consensus over in betting pros is that a lot of people are liking the Patriots. V, you fall on the Patriots and the points. What are you seeing when you see this game?
Yeah, when it opened up earlier this week, it was at +3. I think it's moved kind of down to Cleveland -2.5. So if you got it at +3, that's kind of where you want to be at. That's just a pretty good number in this matchup. Cleveland's rush defense has been atrocious. I mean, I don't know if there's any other way to put it. They got absolutely torched by Austin Eckler last week. And, that's what New England's game is right now with Bailey Zappi in at quarterback. They're just going to run the ball. They're doing it pretty good, I think. I mean, Damian Harris is going to be out for this one. He's going to miss a little bit of time. But Ramondre Stevenson has proven that he's capable of carrying a full workload. And I think he's not going to have too much issue running the ball effectively in this game. And on the other side of things, New England has played pretty good defense, I think, better than people were expecting. This rookie Jack Jones comes out of nowhere, has a couple picks in his last 2 games. Matthew Judon has 6 sacks so far this season. I think they're playing good enough where they can keep this game close enough. And then, when you're running the ball, a lot of times it's going to go off the clock. Both teams are just going to be pounding the rock. So it's not going to be a ton of explosive plays or either team is going to get out to any sort of big lead. So I think this is going to be a very close game. And if you can get the full 3 points, you have a little bit of extra wiggle room to get a push rather than just lose outright. So if you can get the 3 on New England, I really like that play this week.
And I definitely fall in line there. My issue is I think in a lot of matchups, that type of football, and they're well coached, so they execute their game plan to a really high level. And so it makes a lot of sense why people are comfortable with the 3. And to be honest, I like the number more at where it's at right now at -2.5 than -3. But, that's not like the biggest hang up for me. I think, again, one of the issues is the Pats defense has been like much better than expected. I think that they've been carrying them, especially given what's happened to their quarterback room.
Yeah.
But I think that this is still going to pose a challenge for them that they're not ready for. Nick Chubb leads the league in rushing right now. He's on an incredible tear. He's on pace for, I think, 1,900 yards, a couple of big pop-off games, and we're talking about Nick Chubb being the next 2,000-yard rusher on a season, which is crazy to think about in the modern NFL that we have 2 as close as we will. And he's just a different breed right now. And as good as the Pats defense has been, they've given up a little bit on the ground. I think in our article, I put it in our article, I think it's about 4.8 per carry. It's bottom third. And so they need to lock that down if they're going to have any chance. I totally agree that I think it's going to be a lot of ball control by both of these teams. And that's actually why I kind of lean the under on this one too. But the reason why I like that -3 is because when it comes down to it and we get to the last quarter of the game and something's got to give and one of these teams has to push the ball, I'm kind of more comfortable putting my money behind Jacoby Brissett over Bailey Zappi. Just because if it really comes down to it, I expect the guy that has under 40 career dropbacks to probably give up the game over Jacoby Brissett, who's played better football than most people have expected. He's not out of this world or anything, but he has a top 10 PFF offensive grade for quarterbacks. So he's holding down the fort as much as you could hope.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Zappi does have limited experience, but he's been pretty good in his 2 games so far. He's completing like 75% of his passes. He's holding onto the ball pretty well, only 1 interception. Riz Brissett, the last couple of weeks, has thrown some pretty bad back-breaking interceptions late in the game to kind of seal the deal for Cleveland losing those games. So that'd be interesting. I do actually like the over. You said the under. I think I kind of like the over in this game just because there are some injuries coming on Cleveland's side. Denzel Ward is going to miss this game. He had a bad start to the season. I think you highlighted that pretty well on the show the first couple of weeks, but he's been a lot better the last 2 weeks, especially I think in the Atlanta game. 2 weeks ago, he had a pick in that game and it was playing better, but he's out with a concussion. And, even with Myles Garrett back, Cleveland has done nothing well defensively. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be out for this one as well. So I think there's going to be opportunities for points. I think the over-under is only set at like 42.5. So I think this could go a little bit over. So I kind of have that as one of my plays for the week as well.
It's definitely a reasonable number, and I could see it. I think that this is going to be one of those numbers that is like, it's going to be in play right at the end. And like, sure. I think we're kind of on the same page with how this game is going to come out. We just have to figure out what that last quarter looks like. Because Lord knows, I'm probably not even going to watch this game for the first 3 quarters. They're going to have, both of these teams are going to combine for probably 85 carries. Like this type of football hasn't been interesting since the 90s. So I'll pass on it, but it's going to be a really interesting watch on Red Zone when it, when it starts to come down to crunch time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one shakes out. That's our first game of versus. But our second game of versus, and usually we take a total for our second game, but I'm not going to lie. Some of the totals, I think that a lot of the totals were kind of no-brainers to both of us. So we didn't really fall on either side. Instead of forcing something, we went ahead and took another spread, but it's okay. We'll be back with more totals next week. You guys like lines anyway. But the next one that we are carrying on with is Baltimore at the Giants, or Baltimore at the New York Giants. And Baltimore is favored by 5, or when we wrote this, it was 5. And now it's more 5.5, 6. So it's moved a little bit towards me. And V, you were on the side of the Giants +5. You're taking the points there. So my thinking is I'm really just not sure how this Giants team is going to keep pace with this high-powered Baltimore offense. Baltimore is all gas, no brakes, and they know it. And they're forcing you to beat them like that. They understand that they don't run into a lot of teams that can compete with them offensively. And now I know that some games they've, been a little bit lackluster against better opponents and whatnot, but I don't think that this Giants team falls under that. And you highlighted it great that they've actually played spectacular football over their head, the Giants have, but I'm not sure. Something's got to give at some point. Like the clock strikes midnight on the Cinderella story eventually, and this shit's going to turn back into a pumpkin because they don't really have anything at wide receiver. Their leading wide receiver is Richie James with like 17 catches for 178 yards. Now Darius Slayton's back and he's been playing well. He played well last week. So we actually took him last night, or at least I took him last night in our over underdog show to go over or to go, over. I don't have to worry about the higher here. I can go over 35.5 receiving yards in that game. And I still like it. I still like that. But I don't know that the Giants are going to have enough to really keep pace in this one when Baltimore's just blowing the doors off of them. What's your take, and why do you feel like this 5 is a good number here?
Yeah, I just think it's a couple points too many. I think we all agree that the Giants are definitely playing above their head, and it's likely not going to continue to end up in wins as the season goes along. But I still think they can cover some of these bigger spreads, and a lot of that is just on Brian Daboll doing a really good job adjusting to the talent that this team has. I think we're seeing a lot of coaches around the league struggling to do that. They're trying to force guys into their scheme rather than adjusting to what they have. But Daboll has been the exception to that so far this season. He knows who he has. He knows Daniel Jones has limitations. He knows his receiving core has limitations, but he's still finding a way to make things work and to be able to move the ball on offense. I like what I'm seeing from Saquon Barkley. I think he's obviously been, a top 2, top 3 running back this year. I think he's going to have plenty of opportunities in this game to make big plays. And, Baltimore clearly has the talent, but they don't always play up to that talent. They can have some just weird stinkers. We saw it last week with Lamar. He missed his easy throws that he should be making if he wants to be paid like he wants to be paid. I mean, he's not going to be fantastic every single game like we've seen that he can be, because he just throws up these stinkers sometimes. So they can play down to their opponent occasionally. So I think this game will be a little bit close. Baltimore is also missing some guys. They just lost Marcus Williams in the secondary. So even though, the Giants don't have the best passing game, there are some holes that they can probably take advantage of. If anybody can do it, it's going to be Daboll. So I just think Giants play above their expectation level, and Baltimore has occasionally played below their expectation level. So when you're getting 5.5 points, that's just too many for me. So I'm going to take the Giants.
Yeah, understandable. And it definitely, at the number it's at right now, I'm probably not playing it for sure. At 6, 5.5, by kickoff, it's probably going to be even closer to 7.
Yeah.
And I just, you did say it well, that 5 is a pretty big number, especially on the road. And we've seen Baltimore play down to their opponents. So it's going to be interesting to see. All things considered, that offense is so premier that it's hard to fade them. But I'm right there with you that this game should probably be closer to 3.
Yeah, and I think the big key is going to be how is Lamar going to handle the pressure that the Giants have been so good at producing this year with the blitz. They lead the league in blitz percentage. and Lamar has been one of the least pressured quarterbacks, I think, so far through 5 games. So let's see how he handles it. If he handles it well and he's able to pick them apart, then good for him. He's going to be right back in the MVP race. But if he can't, then, some of those questions are going to kind of come back, and we're going to be having that discussion throughout the end of the year. How much should he be paid in the offseason?
Right. And if you guys want to get in on those picks early, definitely go over to importantnonsense.com, get in on our Patreon. That's how you get access to all these picks and our article. The NFL versus article comes out every Wednesday. So you get these lines ahead of time. You can tail whoever you're trying to tail and, see who comes out on top. But it's going to be an interesting. I love the versus stuff. All of our versus stuff has been so awesome because it's crazy to think that as much as like we sit on a different side, we see the game in a very similar light. And then it a lot of the times happens that exact way, like very, very close to the way that we're breaking it down. So you guys can't pay for analysts like this. Get this for free.
For sure.
So we move on to our games. There aren't as many games this week because I know people are going through the bye weeks, obviously now. So there are a little bit fewer games, but we're going to definitely hit a good chunk of them. So stay tuned. You're definitely going to see some of the games that you like here. You can even see them at the top of the screen over there. Where can I point here? Up there. And you can see which ones I have on the board. So check them out. We have a lot in store. And the first one we're starting with is Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. This is one we were talking about in our Discord earlier. So over the course of just today, over the last few hours, this line has jumped from 8 to 9.5 in places. And it's because people are just hammering it. So I'm kind of staying away at the 9.5, but we got in early because we're smart and we do our shopping early. So V got this number at a nice round 8. V, what are you seeing when you see Tampa Bay -8 in this one? And why are you so giddy to get that? And I'm not going to lie, I'm giddy to have it too.
Yeah, I mean, this is just Pittsburgh. It's not that team this year. Whatever happened in week 1, I think we all told you that week 1 was a fluke, and that wasn't even a good win. And, they lost 4 in a row. They are playing a rookie, so he's obviously going to go through his rookie struggles. And Kenny Pickett, I think he was playing as well as he can given the circumstances, but now he's going up against an elite Tampa Bay defense that has shut down everybody besides Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's just hard to imagine he's going to be able to move the ball or do anything. They're not going to be able to run the ball with Najee Harris. I think our guy Logan had a great piece of the Vegas over our love-hate this week, and he talked about Najee Harris on his hate list. He's just not played well against worse defenses, and now he's playing an elite Tampa Bay defense. They're not going to get anything on the ground, so you're going to have to rely against rookie Kenny Pickett against this Buccaneers secondary. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. And then on the flip side, the reason this number has moved up so much just throughout the day is because of all the injuries in Pittsburgh secondary. Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be out. Levi Wallace is out. Some of their other corners are going to be out. So their secondary is just decimated right now. And if you don't have a secondary to stop Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, all these guys, it's just not going to go well. TJ Watt is still out. I mean, there's just nothing that Pittsburgh is going to be able to do to stop Tampa Bay, and there's nothing Pittsburgh is going to be able to do to move the ball against Tampa Bay. So this is an easy pick on Tampa this week.
It's an easy 2-touchdown game. You're going to cash by 10 at least and be happy and just be, go. And I'm right there with you. And I actually like the under on this game. And the reasoning is kind of the same. It's because of just the way you put it. What are the Steelers supposed to do against this Bucs defense? And frankly, what are they supposed to do to stop this Bucs offense? This game screams to me the type of game where the Buccaneers have to get 80% of this total of 46 to get anywhere near this line.
Right.
So I'm right there with you. When you look at both of these teams, they're combined 3-7 going over the total this season. This is the highest total Pittsburgh's seen all season, and it comes with a rookie at quarterback that's making like his second start. Yeah. I'm not sure. Tampa Bay's D is just far too strong. It's probably going to be the toughest defense Kenny Pickett faces in his short career. They only allowed 10.5 points per game to teams not named Kansas City. Like, that's insane.
That's a small number.
That would be tops in the league. And if you think about it, if they're allowing 10.5 opposing points to better offenses, I think you can pencil Pittsburgh in for 6. That means Tampa's going to need to hit 40 for this over. And maybe that happens. Maybe they get all 46 because Lord knows Pittsburgh doesn't have a lot going for them right now.
Couple pick sixes could happen.
Yeah, I mean, and the great people of Pittsburgh deserve better because that's just sad.
They've got their Super Bowls. I don't think they need anything more.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Can't give them too much here. But so that does it for that one. And we're moving on to another interesting matchup. So the Jets head into Green Bay, and you like the Jets +7 here, and it's actually even moved to +7.5. This is an interesting game because our guy Von Moore has been championing this Jets team for the last handful of weeks. He took them to win outright a few weeks ago, and he hammered that one. Yep. And he took them in his opening line value line this week, and look what you do. He's gotten value from that.
Yep.
And so this is an interesting game. What do you see when you see these two teams?
I'm just seeing a Green Bay team that can win games, but they're not blowing teams out. They're just limited talent-wise, especially offensively. They have nothing going in the passing game. They're relying just heavily on the running game, which can only get you so far in terms of covering these large spreads. You can win, but you're not going to be blowing teams out to the tune of winning by more than a touchdown in these games. So if they're not able to put up, 30 points like they have the past decade, then they're not going to be able to cover the 7 points. Again, the receiving core is weak, and the Jets defense, their primary, success has been in their secondary. Sauce Gardner has played well. DJ Reed has played well. I think they're playing well in their secondary, so they're going to be able to hold down Green Bay's offense. And I think on the other side of things, their rushing game has been pretty good with Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Breece Hall has kind of broken out the last couple of weeks. That's kind of why me and Neil Smith had hires on him in our over-underdogs last night. We think he's going to be able to put up a bunch of yards against a weak Packers rush defense. They're just giving up a ton of yards no matter who they play. Saquon torched them last week in London. I think Breece Hall is going to get plenty of yards in this one. I think the Jets will be able to put up somewhere between 14 and 20 points, and I think Green Bay is going to be around that, 21, 24 points. So I think, Green Bay might win this one, but they're not going to be able to cover a touchdown with the way they're playing offensively.
Yeah, and frankly, how they're playing defensively. Vaughn's highlighted, too, that, as this defense was probably supposed to be one of the stronger points of the team. And they're not horrible, but they definitely haven't been that top 5 unit like they were last year. Right. That they really hung their hat on. They were a significantly better team last year, and they're getting lines like they are the team from last year, and I don't see it. So I'm right there with you. I like the points here, and especially if I can get a touchdown and a hook. For sure. I'm going to hop back into it, That makes way too much sense. On to our next one. So this is a game that I am highlighting alone here, but this is the Niners taking on the Falcons, and it's actually another game that, what do you know, goes back to picks that we made last night during Over Underdogs, where we actually both took a lock from this game for our locks of the week on that card. And that was, we took Jeff Wilson as well to go higher than, I think it was 65 and a half, I believe. 65 and a half rushing yards. And we took Tyler Algier to go lower than 45 and a half or 46 and a half rushing yards. And I think a lot of what goes into that is this game script. This does not equate to a game to me that is going to be very, very close. And now I know that this is another rather large spread favorite on the road, but this is an even worse matchup, than the previous one was. The Niners are just way, way, way too strong on defense. This game isn't even going to be close. I'd expect this one to go a lot like the Tampa Bay Atlanta game went last week, because when you look at the San Francisco defense, they are only allowing 12.2 points per game. That's tied for the best in the NFL with Buffalo. They control the ball way too well on the ground. If they want to push the ball, they can. They have an innate ability to know when they need to turn up the tempo and when they need to dial it back. And that's because Kyle Shanahan is very tapped in with game script and game management. I wonder, who doesn't do that very well, Nathaniel Hackett. But anyway, so sorry, I'm still a little upset. But anyway, so and those type of teams travel well. And that's kind of odd because you think of, okay, San Francisco, they're a West Coast team. They play in the nice weather. They play outside. Most of the time, those are things that don't equate to traveling well. But this is a team that does travel well because they play very good on defense and they run the ball extremely well and they control the clock. So this game is going to be dictated by them. I have a hard time seeing Atlanta get much going. So I actually got this game at -4 for San Francisco. It's now moved to 5.5. I'm still actually comfortable taking it at 5.5. But I really also love the under here because I don't really see much of a way that Atlanta is going to get a whole lot going on this offense. And they did decently well against Tampa Bay's offense, as well as, could be expected, I guess. You'd hope that they would put up a little bit more. I know that when we were talking about that last week, it was kind of Tampa Bay's offense that didn't show out as much as you had hoped when you were writing about the over, which makes a lot of sense because Atlanta kind of still hit around that number. But I think when you see the San Francisco defense, it's even just a little bit shade better. Now, maybe it's because they just haven't run into Patrick Mahomes, but it's one of those things that at this point, they're the toast of the NFL. And I have a hard time seeing the Atlanta Falcons be the team that knocks them down. Atlanta hasn't hit an over this month. It is only the last 2 games, but still that's a troubling trend when you see that their overs their totals continue to be around 45, 46 points when they're not putting that type of production. And San Francisco's only allowed 1 over all year. And it was the Carolina game because they decided to go absolutely ballistic for 37. So that's not typically their thing either. So I wouldn't put it on that. And I really like the under here. Go ahead and parlay them together if you can. Get a nice little extra payout there because I don't see many other directions this game could go, frankly. Yeah. Do you see anything when you see San Francisco? Because I know that we've talked a little bit about Atlanta and how they've surprised us this year. Do you see this game going any other way?
I've actually been thinking about taking Atlanta against the spread at the +5, 5.5 number, just because Atlanta's been, pretty okay. They've been fighting in these games. They are the best team against the spread so far this year. They're 5-0. They have not lost against the spread so far this year. And San Francisco is really banged up defensively right now. I think their secondary is taking a big hit this last week. Emmanuel Mosley is likely not going to play. Jimmy Ward is likely not going to play. We know Nick Bosa got hurt last week. His status is up in the air a little bit, but he could be leaning towards not playing in this game. So I think Atlanta is just a little bit feisty. They stay in these games. They were down 21-0 last week, but they put up 2 straight touchdowns, and they covered that spread last week. And Jimmy G, he's not going to be great every week. The reason Shanahan wants to move on from him is because he's going to do Jimmy G things sooner rather than later. He's had a couple good games in a row. I think that kind of means bad things are just around the corner. He can't sustain things for that long. So if Jimmy G is not playing perfect, if he's going to turn the ball over once or twice in this game, then Atlanta's going to be right in there, potentially could win the game if he does enough Jimmy G type thing. So I'm not sure yet which way I'm going to go in this one, but I think I might be leaning towards Atlanta covering this one just because I think they are feisty. They play enough good defense. Grady Jarrett is going to be pissed this week after what happened to him last week. So I think they could come out with some vengeance. So it could be an interesting one. It could be a little closer than we might expect.
It's going to be a more interesting game to watch than I think it looks like on paper for sure too, because these are some tough teams for sure. And the Falcons have played better football than I think any of us expected for sure. But man, I love me some Kyle Shanahan.
I love Kyle Shanahan too. I wish he had his
Kyle Shanahan. Wish we had him in Denver. All right. So on to our next one here. Actually, you know what? Even just a note, they can't trade Jimmy Garoppolo because I live for the Rita Oak drawing Jimmy Garoppolo every day until he gets traded pictures.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good.
They are literally, they're literally gold. Shout out to her. Go follow her on Twitter if you don't already. She's drawing Jimmy Garoppolo every single day until he's traded, and she's a wonderful artist. They're beautiful. I live for them every morning. I wake up and see the new one, and it's just great. So, shout out to her. And she actually even allowed Ben to use one of her pieces for his exotics article a few weeks ago. Nice. Big shout out to her. We really appreciate her. Which is another great piece, by the way. Go check that out. On to our next one. We're going to just talk about the Jags every damn week. I just love them too much. Even when they don't necessarily perform to their best ability, I just can't get enough of the Jags. And I'm again taking them this week at Indy, and I like them getting points. Now, I have to admit, I was a little bit confused last week seeing how they played against the Texans. It was not what I was expecting. I don't think it was what anybody was expecting, because I know they were one of the higher bet teams, even at -7. I thought they were going to make good on being a touchdown favorite for the first time in like a decade, probably. So that was going to be an interesting play. So I'm surprised it didn't work out, especially after how well they played against really top talent teams like the Chargers and the Eagles. And you'd think they would have made good on laying 7 at home. But every up-and-coming team has those moments, where they have to snap out of it, where they realize, hey, we're good, but any week, a team can have a target on your back, and you got to play like that. And now they know what it's like to be a favorite and what that means. So they're going to go into it. They felt that pressure, and it got to them. Hopefully they learn. It just seems like this is going to be a wake-up game for them too, because, they hate the Colts. They 24-0'd them the last time out. And gosh, I just can't get enough of fading the Colts. And they are just not a great team right now. I don't want to go into details of what I had to watch on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, because it was atrocious from both teams. There were Colts fans in the stadium that were like, we were walking out and they were like, nobody deserved to win. We all lost.
Yep.
Frankly, it should have ended in a tie.
9-9 tie would have been
That's
fantastic.
how we felt. Yeah, that's how we felt. So I don't even want to get into that as much, but they are coming off a long week of rest, and they are playing at home. So I expect this game to be a little bit closer than the 24-0 blowout that they had in week 2. But I still see that being the same outcome, where the Jags take this one home. They're just playing better football. They're two teams that are trending in entirely opposite directions. And for Indy to be laying points even at home, I just don't see it. I'm not sure why. Because the Jags have been elite on defense. They've been, even in their loss last week to the Texans, they still had like 350 yards of offense. Now, they gave up crucial interceptions that were the deal breaker, and they didn't really play their best ball in the most crucial moments. I think they had a bunch of 4th downs, didn't convert them. And so those are plays that you have to have that make the difference in a close game like that. I think that they're going to play better, and they're going to make good on those. I'm liking them this week. Is there anything that you're seeing from this game? I know you probably get tired of hearing me talk about the Jags now, because I'm like Ben, where I talk about them any chance I can get, because they're making me a bunch of money, kind of. I mean, they're only 2-3 against the spread, but it's okay.
Well, that's a hot team. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I really like the under in this one. That's at 42 right now, and this is mainly just because Colts are such a joke. They have not scored more than 20 points game this year, maxed out at 20 through 5 weeks. That is just completely unacceptable for an NFL franchise. Even the Bears are better than that. They've gone over 20 a couple times this year. This is just a joke from Indianapolis right now, whatever they're putting out on the field. If they can't get to 20, I don't know how this total is going over 42, even if Jacksonville puts up 20, 24 points. The Colts can't do anything. They just can't move the ball. I don't care if Jonathan Taylor is coming back this week. He hasn't been playing well. As somebody who took him in the league first overall, he's been very bad since week 1. I mean, it's just – this offense is a disaster. I don't know what's going on. I don't know when they're going to make changes. But you just got to take the under 42 on this one if Indianapolis can't go past 20 points.
Yeah. What are they doing over there? You know that it's bad when you have to put it in perspective that the Chicago Bears are playing better on offense for you. Like, my mom doesn't even watch football, and she could probably tell you that the Bears suck. Like, sorry, V. I don't mean to offend.
We all saw it last night.
I know we all saw it last night. So it's just one of those things that it's like that puts it all into perspective. That's all you really need to know. It's those little key details that you're like, ooh, that's how bad it is, isn't it? And like some of us had to witness it through a primetime game and yeah. So hey, I'm right there with you. I think under 42 is way too good of a because it was actually right around. It might have even been a touch higher the last time they played, and of course they cleared it because they 24-0'd them. Yep. So it only makes sense that would.
I think that was one of our versus pick'ems. I think I had the under on the 46.5.
I think you did. Yeah. You did. Yeah.
Pretty easily.
You are right. You are correct. The first of many. The first of many. All right. Enough of that one. On to the absolute game of the week. And you know what? I was thinking about this, and me and Neil were talking about this. So, Neil, if you're watching at home, I need you to message me on Discord because this still doesn't make any sense to me. How is this game in the afternoon window? Like, there is no shot that anybody watched the second half of that game last night. Amazon has to be looking at the second half ratings going, we paid how much to do this when they have this game waiting in the wings? I would have fought a little bit harder to get one of these games flexed because good Lord. Now, granted, I get it. There's only 3 games in the afternoon window because of buys. And this is one of them. This is going to be the best one. But man, there's no reason that we should have to watch what we watched last night when we're all going to be home Sunday anyway, regardless of who's playing, where everybody's home watching football Sunday afternoon. Like, I just don't get it. But anyway, we are on to the Bills at the Chiefs. It's going to be the game of the week. You're liking over 53 here. And I definitely see it too. The line's actually even moved up since we've done this up to 54. And it's probably going to go even higher by the time kickoff comes around. And I even like KC +3. And my general reaction here is kind of the reaction whenever I see 2 teams that I think are going to be, in a bit of a shootout. And that's I'm more comfortable taking the points because, and when you think about you getting these points at home, I'm going to go ahead and hammer it. So if the Bills D were full strength, I'd be probably closer to this and this would make more sense to me. But at 3, I don't know. I'm leaning KC here. You're loving the over. What are you seeing when you see these 2 teams?
This is just for the fun of it. I mean, these are the 2 best offenses in the league. We saw what happened in the playoffs last year. It was just complete chaos late in the game, points. And I'm just rooting for the same thing this year just for my own enjoyment. So if you can ever get these 2 teams together, I don't care what you set the over at, 53, 90, 200. I'm going to take the over on it just for the fun of it. And I have no doubt it's going to cover no matter what it is. So just sit back, enjoy. I think if you look at the NFL map this week for this game, it's literally the entire country is going to be able to watch this game. There's nothing going up against it on CBS. So just sit back, enjoy. Should be the game of the year. We're all going to have a good time with this one.
It's honestly, if I think back to the best games that I've seen on an NFL schedule over the last 5 or so years, every single one of those games involves one of these 2 teams. And then when they get together, it just gets crazy. Just like you said, their playoff matchup was absolutely insane. Yards out the ass. Yeah. We took actually also last night, not to continue to point back to over underdogs, but we also took both of the quarterbacks in this game. Neil actually went under the passing yards for Pat Mahomes at 300 and something. And he has good reasoning behind it. Even if I still think that there's going to be a huge shootout potential for this game, he's definitely has sound logic there. And I'm sitting at the side where I'm taking over on Josh Allen's passing yards at 295.5 because goodness gracious, he takes it personally every time he plays Kansas City. He wants to rip them apart. He wants to take their heart out. So I'm excited to see this game. And shoot, even if you lose your entire bankroll, at least you had fun doing it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna be a hell of a game. So we only have one more game left on our slate here, and that is the Sunday night game, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Sunday night, we have Eagles. Wait, this is backwards too. This is wrong. It's Dallas at Philly.
Yep, it's Dallas at Philly.
Betting Pros has it backwards on here. So it's Dallas at Philly. You're liking Dallas +6. And I'm actually steering towards the under 42 here. So what are you seeing when you see this Dallas team?
Just too many points again. You probably expect Philly to win this one, but this is just too many points for them to cover. Dallas's defense has just been completely legit this year. They're super elite right now. Even though Micah Parsons got banged up in their game against the Rams last week, he came in on third downs and just completely terrorized Matt Stafford. I think their secondary is playing well. We talked a lot about Trayvon Diggs, I think, in the offseason about how he was super hit or miss. He had a lot of big plays, but his actual coverage was not very good. I think he's starting to turn things around right now. He's taking the ball away, and he's playing good coverage. So things are kind of clicking for him right now. So if the secondary is playing well and Micah Parsons is playing well up front, it's very difficult to move the ball against this Dallas defense. And then, we're seeing okay things from the Dallas offense. Cooper Rush is doing a very good job of managing the game. He's not turning the ball over. He's just continuing to convert on third downs, give the ball to Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott when he needs to, and they'll get you a couple first downs here or there. So it's just hard to imagine this team getting blown out right now. And Philly is kind of a team that, as good as they are, I mean, they're the best team in the league record-wise, they don't really play a full 60 minutes. They have hot quarters, hot halves. But as we saw again last week, they had 14 points in the first half, and they put up 6 in the second half, and they blew the cover. Very annoying for me who had Philly -5.5.
Right.
And we see that time and time again. The Washington game a few weeks ago, they put up 24 in the second quarter. They had 0 points the rest of the game. So this is a team that kind of has hot stretches, but they don't play a full 60 minutes right now. So, that's just giving more opportunities for the Cowboys to stay in this game and keep it close.
Yeah, they fall asleep at times. And it's a shame because when they put 60 minutes together, they're going to be the scariest team in the league.
We saw it on Monday night against Minnesota. I think that was one game where they played a full 60 minutes and they just dominated the Vikings.
It was their best game of the season. Yeah, they answered the call. And I'm right there with you. It's actually crazy to think because I'm not going to lie, the Cowboys game is not the first game that I'm clicking into when I'm looking through the list of games on Sunday. Right. And then every single week, they're in close game or they're winning as dogs. And you're like, I have to go back and watch what they're doing. What is this? And so Monday comes on and you flip on their film and you're like, this guy Cooper Rush has how many starts in the league?
And he's won all of them?
He looks polished. He's played above his own head. Now he's not gonna wow you with his throws, but he is a very, very adept game manager. And he's done well with that roster, which is surprising because by all accounts, we had this team dead on arrival at the beginning of this season. We were not high on this with Dak Prescott. And now they're doing this with Cooper Rush, and Dak Prescott's, there's conflicting reports that, a week ago he can't hold the ball and now he's got zip at practice and who really knows how really healthy he is. But it's not a huge concern for them right now because they're playing great football. And you highlighted it perfectly. A lot of it comes down to their defense. And that's why I'm on the under here. You look at divisional matchups in general and teams just come out swinging, especially on defense. They hit hard. They take it personally. They don't want you to have an inch. So when you look at both of these defenses, they're 2 of the top 7 scoring defenses in the league. Dallas is number 3, Philly number 7. And even without Dak, they have enough to keep this line close. And if they're holding down Philly and this line is close, +6 makes a ton of sense. Under 42 makes so much sense.
Yep.
I think that's the only way that game goes. So
should be a good one.
That should be another good one. And then we have Monday night. We didn't take anything from the Monday night game.
No.
Why? I will be watching it though. Nobody call me. And yeah, so I'll be holding on to the edge of my seat for that one when the Broncos take on the Chargers. But anyway, that about does it for us. That wraps up week 6. We're back same time next week, so definitely don't miss us. Also, check out Over Underdogs, halftime of TNF. You can go and watch our show last night for that over on YouTube, Twitch. Check it out, even on our Facebook. Get in on our Patreon, Nonsense FF. That's how you get into our Discord, and that's where all the real magic happens. V and I throw in all of our picks into a thread every single week, so you get those in a nice little area. You can ask us questions directly, and then the cherry on top is that everybody has a fantasy team. We have a whole team of fantasy guys on standby that answer all your questions, your start sits, your trade questions, anything that you have in the chamber. They got you covered, and they're gonna win you your league. So you're gonna love it. Get in on that. We love to see it. We'll see you there. Definitely follow us on Twitter too, and shop.importantnonsense.com. Promo code. I don't know. We're supposed to have a promo code eventually. Jason got a promo code, so maybe I need to bang on Steve's desk for our promo code. Steve. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, that does it for us. V, any parting words for the good degenerates at home?
Bills Chiefs week, guys. Enjoy. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great. We love to see it. All right. And so until next time, guys, keep up the nonsense and good night, good degenerates.
See ya.